A thought experiment. Imagine there was a Palestinian or an Arab football team whose fans chanted en masse celebrating the mass slaughter of Israeli children before, after, or during a game in a European city. What if they also chanted death to Jews? I just want to emphasize very quickly, and this is really important, there was no such example, no evidence that this has ever happened. The point I'm making is if that had happened and nothing else had happened, literally nothing else, just what I just said there, would that football team be banned from playing in Britain? The answer, by the way, if you have any doubt, is absolutely yes. Like that, no question at all. And the question I'd pose is, would there be any controversy over that ban? Would our government and media portray such a ban as a national scandal and outrage, which would culminate in the Home Secretary demanding the resignation of the police chief who took the decision to ban it? The answer clearly is obviously not, do not be absurd. This brings me to the case of Maccabi Tel Aviv and its racist hooligan fan base. Last year, the West Midlands Police, which covers Birmingham, banned their fans from attending an away game against Aston Villa in Birmingham. Why? Because of their highly documented, thuggish, racist behaviour. This then triggered a national scandal, not an exaggeration, in which it was claimed that the ban was driven by anti-Semitism, that Jewish football fans were being banned from attending a football game. Yesterday, that triggered the British Home Secretary to declare she had lost confidence in the West Midlands Chief Constable, that is to demand he is sacked, and literally announce that she's changing British law in an authoritarian power grab to restore her right, the right of the Home Secretary, to arbitrarily sack chief constables of regional police forces. To return to my original point, these Israeli Maccabi Tel Aviv fans do go to European cities, plural, and chant, "There are no schools in Gaza because there are no children left." This is in the context of their army having wiped Gaza from the face of the earth, bombed almost every single school, most repeatedly, slaughtered tens of thousands of children, blowing them up in their beds, cooking them alive in apocalyptic rubble, shooting them in the head, the chest, tearing through their fragile bodies with tank bullets as they cower, terrified, in cars, surrounded by their dead relatives, as well as starving them to death. These Maccabi Tel Aviv fans also chant death to Arabs. All of this in the context of war crimes and crimes against humanity, which have led the International Criminal Court, which Britain is a founding member of, to issue arrest warrants against the Israeli leadership. It's led, of course, to a consensus of genocide scholars, including in Israel, a UN independent commission, a range of NGOs, including in Israel, to conclude Israel has committed genocide against the Palestinian people. Indeed, just last month, Maccabi Tel Aviv were fined €20,000 by UEFA for chanting these slogans at a Europa League away game against Stuttgart. But Maccabi Tel Aviv fans have done far more than that. My point is, what I just said is more than sufficient grounds to ban Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. And if Palestinian life was treated as having any worth, literally any worth at all, there would be no controversy whatsoever. Just on the claim, this monstrous, absurd, gaslighting claim, that this is about Jewish football fans being banned, an abysmal, outrageous conflation of Jewish people and Israeli football hooligans. Let's just listen to this from James Schneider, a political activist and author and self-described Jewish football fan.
The conflation of banning football hooligans from coming to a game, which is something which happens quite normally in Britain and across Europe for all sorts of reasons. If there are fans from a Polish team that have committed violence.
It wasn't just banning hooligans, though. It was banning the fans altogether.
Yes, but that's what happens.
Different when it's Israel. In this time,
okay,
isn't
but
it?
Firstly, why should it be? And secondly, the presentation that this was a ban on Jewish football fans. I'm a Jewish football fan. I was not banned from going to the game if I could have got a ticket.
Right.
The people that were banned, the conflation of all Jews with Israel.
Well, of course, that's
in
wrong.
In the first case, is wrong, which is actually what a lot of our political and media class have been doing over this story. And then specifically, not just with Israel, but saying that all Jews are represented by fans of one football club and one football club which has a track record of hooliganry and violence, so much so that they had a dying match cancelled in Tel Aviv.
This conflation of Jewish people in general with Israeli violence has to stop. Now, there's something that's really important to make clear. The West Midlands police did make errors when they compiled evidence to justify the banning of Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. For example, they admitted using AI, which hallucinated a football match which never happened. This is stupid incompetence, which I'm afraid you're going to expect from the British police, who have got no illusions in whatsoever. This does all rather remind me of the whole saga surrounding the BBC Panorama documentary about Donald Trump and the Capitol insurrection of January the 6th, 2001. They stitched together, in that case, quotes from his incendiary speech that day in a manner which was wholly misleading. Really stupid error. And it is the basis of Donald Trump issuing a $5 billion lawsuit against the BBC. But in that case, the error does not detract from the overall truth. Donald Trump incited an insurrection in an attempt to overturn the 2020 elections, which he had lost. And in this case, the basic incontrovertible fact is that racist hooliganism is rampant amongst the Maccabi Tel Aviv fan base. I should, by the way, just make something clear. I support a general boycott of all Israeli football teams. In the age of apartheid, all South African sporting teams were boycotted. The same should apply today to Israel, which is a state defined by apartheid and genocide. But this whole saga, again, illustrates the basic fact that apologists for Israel are determined to turn the world on its head. Now, there's a new post written on the Substack of the always brilliant Rachel Shabi. She's a Jewish-British writer who I always look up to. She's a friend. She wrote a must-read book called Off-White, the truth about anti-Semitism. You often heard me use the term moral clarity. She's got that in spades. I often look to her for guidance and insight. So do subscribe to her Substack. That's Rachel Shabi, SHABI.substack.com. Now, as she writes, this particular team, Maccabi Tel Aviv, has amidst its fan base a hooligan element with a known history of racist violence and a repertoire of horrendously racist anti-Palestinian chants. When I say this is known, I mean known even to Israelis. It has been true for decades and it is no secret. As she notes, as well as provoking claims of anti-Semitism, this whole saga veered fast into outright Islamophobia. She notes we are told it was an Islamist plot. And by the way, this is what the Conservatives have gone hard in. They're saying this is about Islamism and putting pressure on the police and they're surrendering to Islamists, that kind of stuff. She says it is an Islamist plot that police chiefs cooked up the evidence in cahoots with Muslims. Birmingham, home to a sizable Muslim community, is a regular focus for Muslim bashers who are currently advancing this particular racism by claiming to be concerned about anti-Semitism. This is a recurring motif in politics, whereby a supposed defense of Jewish people is invoked to justify other bigotry or to pursue authoritarian and repressive policies. She notes the mistakes by West Midlands police, but notes too that there was no evidence that the police officers involved were influenced by political interference, anti-Semitism, any other lack of impartiality or malign intent. As she discusses, West Midlands said they originally intended to facilitate the match before receiving a briefing from Dutch police commanders about the hideous behaviour of Tel Aviv fans in Amsterdam in November 2024. She quotes her own Guardian article at the time about what happened in Amsterdam, that they had torn down a Palestinian flag from the facade of a building and burned it, attacked one taxi with their belts and vandalized others. Among the deplorable chants they saw fit to shout on the streets of Amsterdam, home to a large Muslim community, were "Let the IDF win, we will fuck the Arabs, fuck you Palestine, and why is there no school in Gaza? There are no children left there." Indeed, as she knows, the risk assessment concluded that violence was not simply between fans, but spilled out into the local population. We should note that Tel Aviv police themselves shut down a derby between Maccabi Tel Aviv and Hapoel Tel Aviv after what they described as public disorder and violent riots last November. To be absolutely clear, even an Israeli newspaper, which called what happened a pogrom, started its article with the following. This is what an Israeli woman who arrived in Amsterdam 2 days before a soccer match between Maccabi Tel Aviv and Ajax clubs wrote about the atmosphere in the city. There were huge gatherings and shouts of death to Arabs in Amsterdam's main squares, alongside violence against people holding Palestinian flags. We didn't know that the organised violent reaction from the other side was coming. Leaving the game 10, Maccabi Tel Aviv fans were roaming the train looking for a Palestinian to beat up. Their words. They didn't find one. They arrived at the central station. At first, everything was fine, she recalled. Then, as they left the stations, we suddenly heard explosions of very loud firecrackers, and many Maccabi Tel Aviv fans started running. Amsterdam police chief condemned the attack on the Israelis 2 days later, clarifying that the Israelis started the riots. Now, that was a newspaper which is claiming they were the victims of a pogrom, which literally opens by stating that they were looking for Palestinians to beat up. Now, the Dutch police said that the disturbances began with Maccabi supporters taking Palestinian flags and setting them on fire while shouting chants about there being no schools in Gaza because they've already killed all the children. Furthermore, there were multiple other incidents, as the Dutch public broadcaster NOS reported, such as a woman who shouted "Free Palestine," then was punched, spat on, had her hair pulled by Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. Another Muslim woman reported wearing a veil on the subway while Maccabi supporters allegedly shouted, "We will kill all of you." They also reported, the Dutch public broadcaster, on a video of a cab driver's windshield being attacked by a Maccabi Tel Aviv hooligan dressed in black, while another cab driver had his car pelted with a glass bottle. Now, one Dutch journalist, Annette de Graaf, who I interviewed, filmed Maccabi Tel Aviv fans attacking bystanders, and her footage was then used by broadcasters who claimed it was Maccabi Tel Aviv fans being attacked by locals. She got multiple apologies for that. The damage was done, though. She's written about this, noting Amsterdam City Council adopted a motion declaring that racist sports clubs like Maccabi are not welcome in the city. She also refers to statements of the mayor of Amsterdam, Femke Halsema, who noted that nobody had used violence against Amsterdam's Jewish community or against local Jewish sites during those days. Genuine anti-Semitic rioters would have gone looking for non-Israeli Jews as well and used Maccabi provocations as a pretext, but that had not happened. She notes the first confirmed act of violence, which she details as follows. After midnight, about 50 black-clad Maccabi hooligans assembled in front of a private house and tried to break in. A resident recalled that the mob had made threatening gestures, kicked doors, and smashed windows. And one had shouted, "We're going to kill you." One of the hooligans scaled the wall of a house to tear off the Palestinian flag hanging from a window sill, while the rest, meanwhile chanting, "Fuck you, Palestine." Now, all of this. On Wednesday, the British Home Secretary stood up in Parliament and announced she had no confidence in the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police over the banning of Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, in effect demanding he's sacked, despite overwhelming evidence of their racist, genocidal hooliganism. And then a few hours later, Maccabi Tel Aviv fans went on a racist, violent rampage in Tel Aviv, attacking an Arab-owned car wash while chanting death to Arabs, throwing objects at the owner and his workers. Let's just watch some footage. The Arab owner is quoted as telling the Israeli newspaper Haaretz, "I tried to escape in a car, but a policeman who was there said that if I moved, he would shoot me because it would be a terrorist car ramming. He just stood there and let the fans beat us up." The world is turned on its head. Israel wipes Gaza from the face of the earth, committing genocide against the Palestinian people, as per the consensus of genocide experts, the United Nations, and NGOs. It does so with weapons and support from the British government. Its racist hooligans go on a violent rampage in European cities, chanting boastfully of Israel's mass slaughter of Palestinian children. Some of those hooligans themselves undoubtedly served in Gaza in the IDF and killed the children themselves. They chant slogans like "Death to Arabs." And when a British police force tries to prevent those hooligans coming to a mixed community in Birmingham, that triggers a national scandal, with anyone supporting that ban accused of racism. The Home Secretary then orders the Chief Constable of the police force to resign and uses this whole saga to change the law of the country in an authoritarian power grab to give her the power to sack chief constables, a power you will see abused when a hard-right government comes to power in this country. Meanwhile, all those who facilitated and cheered on Israel's genocide continue to run the country and be treated as moderate, respectable pillars of society. Well, you can only turn reality on its head for so long. Millions of people have heard too much, seen too much, read too much. They know the truth, and one day they will prevail. Please like and subscribe, leave your thoughts and your comments, help us take on the grotesque media in this country. Patreon.com/OwenJones84. You make all of this possible. As I say, I'm focusing on the book, I keep saying, The Fall of the West. When I do that, I'll throw everything at the channel, but you've kept it all bubbling along, so thank you for that. Share the video, like, subscribe, leave your thoughts, your comments, share the video. I keep saying share the video. How many times have I said that? I'll speak to you in a bit.